I love that song, man. Every time I turn it on, I love it, man. I'm Stevie Seal. Welcome to the Stevie Seal Show, man. It's time to get it on. We're going to get it on today with Mike Braco, man. Mike is a specialist in IT solutions and IT prevention, cybersecurity, and all kinds of things. An entrepreneur. He's a like-minded spirit. I think we're going to have a good time, man. So, Mike, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me, Steve.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely, man. So diving into your background, what I could find on the internet, like searching your soul and dig it in there.
There's a lot out there.
Yeah. Well, I called your parents and I asked for all kinds of dirty stories, your sisters, your brothers. I got your friend Tommy from high school. He told me the story about the underwear and the, no, I'm just kidding.
True story. Yeah.
I literally didn't call anybody. So anyway, man, what's cool about digging into your background is that you're an IT and an entrepreneur guy.
Yeah.
And so I think that stuff's fascinating because I am an entrepreneur, but I am not an IT guy. I guess what makes me curious, man, what got you moving in, what turned you on to computers and when did you dive into that thing, man?
So I've been doing this, I don't want to date myself, but I've been doing it for decades, but it's all I've done my entire professional career is worked in information technology, cybersecurity. I've worked for publicly traded companies in Silicon Valley. I've started and operated and built my own businesses.
Yeah.
But for the last 10 years, I've been focusing on cybersecurity,
Okay.
protecting business owners so they don't have financial crimes, fraud, reputation damage because their customer information got stolen and put on the dark web.
Okay.
So we protect business owners and their payroll.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I'll go back to my days. Let me ask you a question. I want to get early years.
Yeah.
What was your first computer? I want to start there. What was your first computer?
Gosh, my first computer. It was a compact computer.
A compact.
Yeah. So not quite a Commodore 64.
Okay, so that was my first computer. Was a Commodore 64.
Yeah, not one of those. Yeah.
I if I remember this right, it didn't even have a memory. You had to like program the thing that you wanted to do every time.
Yeah.
And the only thing I could figure out, the only thing I had enough patience for was like this piano. You could program it to like be a piano. And it was like, I don't know, like 80 lines of code or something. And I hated it because I would get all the way down and realize that I messed something up. And I was like,
start over.
Yeah, you got to start over. And I was like, this is not for me. I don't know what it was. But what turns you on about them? Like, how did you get excited about that?
I like technology because it changes every day, keeps moving, evolving.
Yeah.
But I focus mostly on the sales and marketing side of the business.
For sure, right.
And helping people get what they need.
Yeah.
Right? Business owners need certain things to operate their businesses and keep them safe and keep their customers safe. And so that's what I do. I just provide that service.
Do you feel like you're sort of like a good guy in the movie that you're making for yourself?
So, I'm actually here to save you from the bad guys.
I love that, dude.
Right?
I love that.
And your listeners from the bad guys. But, in this case, it's there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
A lot of them, man.
Yeah.
Good thing I have morals because it would be super easy to be a cyber criminal.
Is that true?
These guys are just making a killing, on the backs of hardworking people.
Yeah, for sure. I have a question about that. So, like, as you start thinking about this, you think about cybercrime, you think about whatever, if you want to put it into a dealership context or whatever, because we're a car guy show, right?
Yep.
Like, what are the real threats? I mean, I know what they are, but what are they really? Like, break it down to me like I'm a third grader and I don't understand anything. Like, what are the threats that are coming across our desk every day and across our computers, man?
So, leaving the government out of it, because the government, they're coming in and sticking their nose into people's businesses, which they always do, and we'll get to that.
I would like to leave the government out of everything,
Right.
but we can get into that later.
So we'll just start with what do people need to worry about?
Yeah.
91% of crimes that happen in car dealerships or in regular businesses, they come through email, right? Something gets sent into the business pretending to be somebody else.
Yep.
Fake financial information, a fake credit score, fake emails to click here to make a payment.
Yep.
And that's how people get hacked. Email's a big entry point for a business email compromise and financial crime.
Yeah.
Wire transfers specifically. So I'll tell you a couple stories.
Really?
So the biggest crime we had to deal with in the last year was $1 million. It was a auto parts company that needed to pay a supplier for parts that had been made, and they got an email. Looked like it was from the customer, looked like it was from their supplier. The purchase order looked the same, graphics, email, everything looked great, but they're like, oh, we changed our bank and routing number. You know, when you make the payment, send it here. Went to a bank, 48 hours later, got moved to China, gone. And so, big red flag, you know.
$1 million cash.
$1 million. Anytime somebody says our bank and routing number changed, stop it right there. You know, don't respond to the email. Don't call the phone number in the email. Go to a trusted source. Make a phone call to the company. Validate it. Yeah, so bank and routing number change is a huge red flag for any business.
So I think this kind of comes down to like, and I'm not bad mouthing people that have fallen for scams because I know lots of people that have fallen for lots of scams, and some of these are pretty sophisticated. Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean. It's not just the Nigerian calling you on the phone asking if you want to, win the lottery or whatever.
Those are out there, but yeah, there's more sophisticated.
100% they're out there. I've got a great story for that too, but. It seems like these sophistications. So how do people get targeted? Does somebody see like, okay, I'm cybersecurity criminal, right? I'm plowing through the internet all day. I guess it's my job, my research, my work that I'm doing every day is looking for people that have weaknesses. Is that kind of what that comes down to?
The majority of them are done in high volume, robots scanning for vulnerabilities, whether it's the speed of your internet connection. Oh, that's a high-speed internet connection. Let's focus in on that one. It's probably a business. Or
wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so a lot of it is computer programs operating, going out and scanning for software, speeds of internet connections, vulnerabilities, website vulnerabilities, firewall vulnerabilities into businesses. And once the computer identifies it, then it gets kind of elevated to somebody to try to exploit it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. So I had no idea. I wouldn't think. I mean, but again, I'm not in the cyber. Yeah. I'm not in the cyber criminal business, which is good for everybody, I guess.
Not that companies don't get targeted,
right.
But a lot of time it's random that they stumble across it.
Wow. So most of it's randomized searching through the internet with bots going through the thing.
Bots crawling stuff, looking for vulnerabilities, ways to get into businesses.
Okay. And so beyond that, like, we know there was, we know there were some big attacks, right? Like, I mean, everybody knows about, like, even if you don't know about the car business stuff, everybody knows about Sony getting hijacked back in the day and all this stuff, right? Or T-Mobile, like, these are giant hacks.
Target.
These are targets, right? So how vulnerable?
That was the HVAC vendor that caused that one.
Really?
You had a USB drive that they plugged into something that activated the malware. That's how that happened. Just through a vendor doing some service work.
And was the vendor in on this?
No, it was just a random thing. He had it on his thumb drive when he plugged it in.
Okay, so all right. So I'd heard about something before, and I don't know if this is true. So I had heard somebody had told me, like, hey, don't buy these cords from like the Amazon, right?
Yeah, that was the thing for a while. Yeah, that the cords, there are certain cords that could have malware in it that could extract information off of your phone. But another thing is, if you ever see like a USB drive on the ground, never pick it up and put it in a computer. Never.
Do people do that?
Yeah. Hackers will just scatter them around in front of businesses, and people will pick them up and say, "Oh, I wonder what's on this."
I wonder who's
it
this
into
is.
their computer. Yeah.
Like in the hopes
maybe
that
I'll return it to them, or I wonder what's on here.
Or maybe it's Shelley's the receptionist,
the
and I want to see what Shelley's pictures look like, or whatever the case may be.
Curiosity, right?
Dude, that's wild, man. So these folks, I mean, this is really, I mean, I know it's obviously it's $1 billion business or whatever it is, right? Because I mean, there's people getting scammed all the time. That's one thing for $1 million. But what else do people need to look for in there? I mean, this is a big question, but I mean, go back to the emails for a sec, because I want to talk about that. So like, we're getting emails for, obviously we want to stay away from routing numbers, but like, what else comes through people's email that they can manage, like for a salesperson to see? So I guess this can come from anywhere, I guess is what I'm trying to get down to.
It could come from anywhere. It could come from a personal email coming into your account, something that looks like it's from bestbuy.com, something that looks like it's from Apple, something that looks like it's from your boss. Really? It can come all different shapes and forms. But the three most common ways that you can identify a phishing email is by hovering over the email address. It will expose, a little bit the full
the full length of the
length
text.
the
Yeah,
email.
yeah.
You can mask them in other more sophisticated ways, but usually that's a good check. Hover over it. Links inside
what I don't mean to interrupt, but what are we looking for?
It might say it's from Joe Frank.
Okay.
And you hover over it, but it actually says like something at gmail. Or Japan.
So if it's not attached,
right? Russian, Japan,
Got it.
You can see that it's from a foreign country.
So if I get a note from in data from Mark, I look and I hover over that, it should complete out Mark at in data. Right, in data, right. Yeah. And so instead this will play out to something else. Interesting.
So the link, the attachment, everybody gets the fake voicemail attachment. I don't give voicemails via email that look like that. So it's usually a link, an attachment, or you can tell from the email address it's covered, or that it's misspelled. Or although ChatGPT now will do this for hackers, so there's a lot less spelling errors. So you can't really count on the spelling errors anymore. So, yeah.
Hey, listen, I want to defend bad spellers for a minute, okay? I'm bad at math and I'm a bad speller, but I can sell you a car. I'm really good at it.
You don't need to be a good speller because the computers are going to do it for us for the rest of our lives.
In all fairness, I knew this in third grade. I knew this in third grade. I was like, this is never going to matter. But I was wrong. I was wrong in a couple of cases because so I'm soon to marry the grammar sergeant of all sergeants. So I'll send a message to my girl, right? I'll be like, hey, listen, I love you, blah, 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 blah. And she'll send it back with a comma in quotations as in like, this would have been a better message had you put a comma here, And I'm like,
a little punctuation fix for you.
And I'm like, well, this is the easiest way to not have children, what you're doing here, So talk to us about these other threats. We were talking about email and then coming in, and then like what else do people need to be watching for, right? I mean,
so any business should have an email phishing awareness program.
Yeah.
A service we provide. There are lots of companies that provide these, but it will phish the employees. If they click on something they shouldn't have, it'll pop up a quick video. 2 minutes, it'll explain why, to recognize it. So with repetition, you can teach them.
So it's like a mystery shop.
Yeah.
So basically, so I hire you at my store, and then you go, okay, great, we're going to test your folks and see how they do.
Yeah.
And then you're going to send out
a score. We give a report to management. We do it ongoing. We'll do some 1 or 2 a week.
Yeah.
Then we get a percentage of accuracy. Make sure they complete the training videos. Really, your best defense is your employees.
Yeah.
Like I said, the majority of breaches come through email and people clicking on stuff that they shouldn't have. So,
how many of these are playing out in dealerships? I mean, what is it?
So yes, car dealerships are not immune to these kinds of things. They're just like any
Definitely
other
not.
business.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been some pretty significant cybersecurity breaches, like Nissan North America had a big data breach in 2020.
Okay.
And so what Nissan had the sales finance side of corporate, and there was data breach there. It came in through a third-party software vendor that they had hooked into their system. But, they ended up releasing 1.9 million customers' data to hackers. And what happens with that stuff is it goes on to the dark web.
Yeah.
It gets bundled up for sale. And so another service we provide is we do dark web scans. So if you have like an @company name domain,
right?
We'll constantly scan for, did any of your employees accidentally or somehow click on something that now it's on the dark web. And it's super common. You'd be surprised if you put in a corporate domain in there.
Yeah.
We'll find 50. The other day, we had a small business, 20 employees. They had 500 passwords that got scraped out of their web browsers and were posted on the dark web. So we immediately started a process of, getting all their passwords into a password manager, changing all the passwords. So that's why we scan it, because they're out there for sale. And a lot of people, and I don't blame them. It's a habit. They reuse the same password.
Right.
You know, and it's like their dog or their mom's name with a number behind it.
Have you ever seen that TikTok video, or it's an old Instagram video or Facebook or something, of some social media, and the guy's like, "Hey, listen, I bet I could guess your password in like 10 questions."
Yeah.
And the girl's like, "Absolutely not." And he's like, "Okay, cool." He's like, "By the way," he's like, "What high school did you go to?" He goes through his whole thing, and she just loops the whole thing out. You know, like it's like literally like dog's name, high school mascot, like year you graduated or something. It's like.
Yeah, so whether it's like, you know, at home or at work, you got to download a password manager.
Yeah.
LastPass, OnePass, Keeper, something that you put on your mobile phone. And it's great. It'll do facial recognition. You can save your passwords in there. It'll log you into the apps automatically.
All your apps?
Yeah, so you're kind of getting, we're almost to the point where if you're using Password Manager, you could do passwordless, you know, environment where you can use your facial recognition or your thumbprint on your phone to log into stuff, or a thumbprint on your computer, or even facial recognition on your laptop. Microsoft has Windows Hello. It'll look at your face and go, oh, yeah, that's Steve. I'm going to log him in.
And once you're in all the way.
And once you're in all the way, yeah, you do that in combination with the Password Manager, super secure. The second most important thing to do is turn on multi-factor authentication.
Yeah.
People got used to that with their bank accounts, right? You get a text, you know, with a code, and you type the code in. And so doing that on your email, super important. Doing that for your bank and finances, personal, you know, anything personal or financial related, really any application.
Yeah, it sounds like almost
even your Twitter account.
It sounds like everything needs it. Really, in all honesty, it's it needs, what do we call it? Two-step pain in the ass notification.
I actually got a call yesterday from a client, like, our CEO's Twitter account got hacked, and, you know, can you help us recover it? Unfortunately, Twitter does not have good tech support. They don't have tech support. Right. They have like a support handle.
Well, they got about 20,000 less now that Elon fired them, right?
Right, exactly. And so I'm like, well, there's really not much we can do about that.
Yeah.
You know, so other than you should get a password manager.
Man.
You know, so
that was a lost cause with the CEO's deal.
Yeah. So it's
How did
very
it get
hard
lost?
to recover those.
How did it get hacked?
Somebody got onto his computer and scraped, maybe it's a reused password, or scraped his password out of his web browser. So it's not safe to save passwords in a web browser. In fact, for the car dealerships, one of the activities we do is we'll send them a link, we'll let them click on it, and then we'll harvest everything off the computer that we can, just like it was a phishing exercise.
Yeah.
On a Windows computer, what we can usually harvest, we can get all their passwords scraped out of their web browser. We find any personal identifiable information, which we're not supposed to be keeping on their personal computer. It's supposed to be centrally stored to protect the consumer's personal information. So social security numbers, tax returns, W-2s, and whatever you need to do financial approval for whatever they're buying. But yeah, so we scan for that stuff and find it and make sure that it's stored properly at the dealerships. So
let me ask you this. If I'm a hacker and I get into whatever, I fall prey. Right. I'm not a hacker. I'm a victim. I fall prey to whatever. If I'm in my personal laptop, right, but I'm also connected to the network through work, right? I can log into my CRM. I can log into my dealership management systems, whatever the lead programs, whatever. I can also log into there from here. Does whoever stole or got in, whoever I took the bait for, are they into everything as a result of me getting into that?
If your dealership application does not have multi-factor authentication turned on, you can absolutely be at risk. So we call it bring your own device, letting employees take a laptop to work to log into cloud accounts, whether it's a dealership app or a finance app or a CRM, for prospecting, or even maybe, sales guys at dealerships now, they're using a lot of social media. They're using Facebook to try and bring people into the lots.
Yep.
But when they're using those personal devices, if they're not secure, they can absolutely expose the passwords to the important corporate
to the network,
the corporate data.
Yeah. And then once they're is there a real pathway? I'm ignorant to this stuff, right? Because again, I hated my Commodore 64. I loved my Nintendo NES system. That was the end of my computer experience. I'm a Mac guy because I edit these things and do all that stuff, but that's by force, not by choice, right? I'm just an old crusty the car dog, and it's that kind of thing. And I think I'm probably the guy that gets us in trouble, except except for the fact that I don't give a damn about what people are sending me, so I don't click on anything that I didn't ask for.
That's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah,
it's like, do I answer this phone call? I don't know who this is.
Yeah, no,
exactly.
exactly.
Same thing with email. I treat it the same way.
Same thing with email. So what are the I don't know, man. Like take me on a journey, right? Like just tell me about the hell that people have. Like really, I mean, there's real hell out there for somebody, for a dealership. Like what is it that?
So yeah,
scare me.
So
let's see if you can scare me.
So I'm going to scare you with a government story. So the FTC, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. They regulate car dealerships in certain ways, right? So they were involved in window stickers and lemon law and treating consumers, the way that. So there's regulation around advertising and false advertising and all with good intention.
Charging for service, for
right.
all these caps.
How you charge for service.
Right.
And so they've extended that reach to cybersecurity now. The personal identifiable information that you give a dealership when you walk in and the sales guy pulls out his little notepad and, hey, can I get your name, get your phone number? Sometimes they do it on a phone, a tablet, a piece of paper. That process of starting to gather their information and store it, Federal Trade Commission wants that stored securely. So because, the bad guys are going to come into the dealerships, they're going to take the data, they're going to sell the data. And now, the dealership, depending on the state law, there's state data privacy laws too. And they're different state to state, and they have their own fines. So you've got state regulation, federal FTC regulations called the FTC safeguards. They're supposed to be done by June 8th. I think a lot of dealerships know about them. Some have already started on it. Some have completed it. Some are thinking about starting it.
Right. Some are trying to avoid it altogether.
Some are burying their head in the sand, right? Just they'll never come to us.
Right.
This will go away. But eventually, the way they show up is there's a complaint, right? That's usually how this starts. There's a complaint from a consumer. And I had a situation where I gave my personal identifiable information to a lending company when I bought a house. And I can put my finger on it. I think it was the title company.
Really?
And somehow my social security number got leaked, and I had a big loan taken out in my name. I caught it quick. I got it taken care of. But that's why they need to protect this data, because you get your social security number out there, your financial profile, people will start taking loans out in your name. So you can go on the dark web and buy somebody's full, complete information. Address, name, birth date, mother's maiden name, social security number, $45.
$45 you can buy somebody's identity for?
But if you go grab 1.9 million from Nissan's finance department, you're making a killing.
Wow.
So yeah.
How common is it? How hard is it to get on this dark web? Like, where do you go? I mean, I don't need you to tell the website, but I mean, like, how do you get it? You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know where to go, right? So obviously there's a criminal aspect that does, but
I don't go on there, but we have tools that scan in there and give us the information we need. But the way you typically go on there is through a anonymized web browser that doesn't show where you are.
Like a VPN or something.
We use a VPN and a thing called a Tor browser.
Okay.
And, the dark web sites are .onion.
Okay.
And you got to know exactly what address to type in, but you don't want to go there.
No.
I've never been there. There's
nothing
good going on there.
I would imagine that's just an invitation to
it's an invitation
to the Department of Justice.
Why do you have this on your computer? Definitely don't do it on your work computer.
Yeah, no, definitely don't do it on your work computer.
Yeah.
So I guess this kind of comes down to like who are these, like, who are the bad actors, right? Like, I know they're not just the Nigerian princes. I know it's not just these Ukrainians, the Russians, the Chinese. I mean, I know it's everybody. I know it's people here in our home cities and states and countries. But like, where's the majority of this element, this criminal element? Where are they coming from?
It's everywhere. So one of the first things we do is we set up a monitoring system for. Office 365 is a very common email system that pretty much all businesses use. They use that or Google Workspace as a business environment. So we connect a system to it that monitors all of the requests to log in, and small businesses, 20 people, 50 people, they're coming from the Ukraine, they're coming from China, they're coming from
India,
Saudi
Russia,
Arabia,
yeah.
India, but
Israel,
and
everywhere.
all day long. And when we show this, we have a map that shows all the login attempts and successful logins.
Yeah.
And we monitor for a few days and show it to the business owners. They're shocked. They really don't know because people, you can't see it. It's not tangible. You're like, where is it coming from? So we provide that service. We show them, and as soon as we show them, would you like us to block all foreign traffic? They're like, yes, please. So we block all foreign traffic.
Yeah.
That cuts down on a huge amount of it. Turn on multi-factor authentication. That cuts down on them actually getting into the systems.
Yeah.
So we're reducing the attack surface.
Yeah, I mean, that's smart.
Reducing the risk.
Right. You're reducing the amount of enemies that have the ability to get to you, right? I mean, you've created a fortress around yourself just by ignoring that. Because honestly, nobody's selling cups. Judy's Cup Factory or whatever in, Bogota, Wisconsin, which is always the made up city and state I use. It doesn't need, the Chinese asking for how much other cups are.
No,
right.
So we did that too. We blocked all of our international traffic internally. We don't do, we do a little bit of business in Mexico, but in general, we don't do international.
Yeah,
business.
that makes sense. That makes sense. So now we know the actors. What are they digging for? I mean, just access passwords? Are they ransomware? I mean, what is it that they're digging for?
It's like a treasure hunt. Whatever they can get their hands on. If they can get their hands on social security numbers and personal identifiable information, they can sell that on the dark web. They can take that to go impersonate someone and create loans, open credit cards, open accounts, charge stuff to people. There's all kinds of things you can do. So what typically happens is people will do one part of the job, and then they'll sell the data to the next person that's good at exploiting it, or that is good at taking that data and turning it into 50 loans and impersonating the person. And so it's like a marketplace of, it's a bazaar of people that can do different things with the information and they sell it.
Yeah, so I guess that makes sense, right? Everybody's got an expertise.
You're like shopping. Let's buy those because they're already we already know those exploits. Those ones we can get into quickly. And
Jesus, man.
So it's a whole ecosystem. And what's happened in the last few years is you used to have to be a hacker, coder to do this.
Yeah.
You can actually go out and buy software as a service and go install it at your employer if you're a disgruntled employee.
Holy shit.
And if they lock up the data, so it's an inside job, you go and install this, they lock up the data, and then when the ransom gets paid, you get a percentage of it. You're basically an affiliate. You're an affiliate. Yeah, so there's these affiliate programs for ransomwares and hackers. So basically, you can't. Everybody's had a disgruntled employee at one point for whatever reason. They felt like they weren't treated fairly, and so you have to prepare for that. We actually had that happen to a client about 3 years ago. A disgruntled employee left some ransomware before he left.
So does that employee have to have access to?
He had access to a computer.
Does he have to have like admin access, or does it just? If he's got a password, and
that's a good question. It depends, but you'd be surprised. You go into a lot of companies, and they do have administrator access to their laptops,
right?
Or even other things that they could install it on.
Sure. Yeah. Or you just ask one time, "Hey, can I get in here? You're off. I'm working late."
That's another thing we do immediately. We take away all administrative privileges. Then ransomware, random software that people click on, download, bring in a USB drive. Disgruntled employees, they can't install anything.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So we would totally lock it down,
So, okay. So how much of this have you been involved in? Like have you done any cleanup? Like, the service group or what's the name of the company? ServPro that cleans up like after a fire, after the water damage, whatever comes through, the hurricane comes through, these companies come in. Do you do that stuff or are you all preventative maintenance?
No, we do preventative maintenance, but that's an incident response. Like, nobody's safe.
An incident response. You guys sound like FBI or something, man. Y'all are dope.
Unfortunately, we've had to contact the FBI on behalf.
Oh, 100% would imagine. No, I would 100% imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. When you have a serious financial crime, we have a process for reporting it. There's a window where you can do a kill chain on the bank transfer.
Now, what's a kill chain? Oh, just
you contact the bank. Hey, this money went out. This was a fraudulent transfer. You usually have about 24 hours to kill it. there's a little bit longer window before it can leave the country.
Yep.
And that's part of, prevention of
Oh,
terrorism
really?
and
So
money
if you catch
laundering.
it fast enough, so they can enact it, but if you catch it fast enough, it won't get transferred out of the
It
States.
won't get transferred out. Yeah. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So we've had to work with the Los Angeles FBI. There's about $50 million in cyber crimes in Los Angeles County per month. And
Per month.
per month, yes.
Damn.
It's a big business.
And who? Wow. You want to say like who's the who's the primary target? I keep kind of going back to that, but it's everybody.
Yeah, billions and billions of dollars per year are taken in cyber crimes.
And what happens?
Financial
So
fraud.
what happens to the money? Like, so let's say I'm XYZ business, right? Or I'm 1, 2, 3 small business. What happens? My employee gets in, their treasure hunts in, they got this stuff, they turn these things over, my money gets transferred, my securities are locked up. Like what's the process to cleaning that up? Like how do you ever get out of that cycle of hell that you've been put in because you were weak on your security?
So we put all the cyber control procedures in place and the technology in place to monitor and manage it and monitor and manage it and keep working on it. But this is what the business owner does. He goes, to the office admin, to his executive.
Yeah.
So, do we have insurance for this? And they go get call the insurance guy, right? And they call the insurance guy and say, hey, we accidentally transferred $1 million and it's gone and it came through a phishing email. And so the insurance guy will look at the policy. Do they actually have a cyber insurance rider? And if they do, they'll start to ask them questions. Well, did you have this control procedure in place and this control procedure in place and this control procedure in place? And if you don't, you're out of luck.
You're done.
Insurance companies love not to pay.
Yeah, of course.
They don't want to pay claims.
No.
Right? So they're looking for a reason already not to pay it. So that's another thing we do in their risk management. We look at their insurance policies, we read them. Like, hey, this only covers, in downtime, like $10,000. That's your payroll per week, or per day, depending on the size of the company. So they need to have cyber insurance. They need to have proper controls in place. And if they just follow the FTC guidelines and let those get implemented for cybersecurity, they're totally insurable with any, good insurance company, Lloyd's of London, Chubb, you name it.
Travelers.
Yeah, Travelers, yeah. But if they follow our process, we could pass any insurance audit.
So that's part of the advantage is that not only are you safer, but also that you pass the
you can get insurance.
You can get insurance.
You could actually,
right?
if something did happen, and inevitably it will, we could put the locks on the doors, but we can't 100% guarantee anything.
Yeah.
The hackers are always moving and trying new ways to get into businesses. So I think that the safe assumption is everybody's going to get hacked. If you haven't had a personal identity theft, likely will in your lifetime.
Yeah, I've had some close calls. I feel like I've had some not too long
A lot
ago.
of credit cards online that you're buying stuff with. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, there's funny charges on them.
I've never had the funny charges, man. I mean, I
Never?
knock on this desk, this wood. I haven't. I honestly haven't. But I have had. I shouldn't have said that because I disputed fight. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I haven't. But I have had lots of on Venmo, man. Venmo. Like for like a day and a half, it kept like 2-factor popping me. Hey man, you're trying to log in. You're trying to log in. You're trying to log in. I was like, I am not. It got so bad that I called Venmo.
Somebody's trying to guess your username and password.
Right,
Yeah.
but where the hell did they get that? Right,
But if it's happening over and over and over again, it's a robot logging into the Venmo website, guessing. It's called a dictionary attack.
Okay.
It's guessing your username and password, or they got your username and password somehow, and they just kept trying it. But you had your multi-factor authentication turned on, and that's the benefit of turning on multi-factor authentication.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
You get notified if
Right.
somebody's trying to log into your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing about it is that it's all fun and games until you lose $1 million, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. Then people start to take it seriously.
yeah, no, 100%.
And they go and look for the insurance policy.
Right.
Is this covered?
Right. Does my homeowners cover this? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's part of a thing. I guess you're opening my eyes a little bit because I always think of, okay, like, look, it matters on a bank. It matters on this or, whatever. Like, I don't want my Wells Fargo or my Chase or my whatever to just be available to anybody. So I'm happy to do it when it's like that. But I don't want to do it when I'm logging into Facebook. I don't want to do it when I'm logging into IG. I don't want to do it on TikTok. Right. But all that exposure's there. And especially from a company standpoint, I know we're talking about personal little stuff here, but That's how it all starts, right?
That if you're using the same password on Instagram or Facebook that you're using on your corporate email, stop doing that.
Fine. Fine. I'll do it. I'll stop. I'll change it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's annoying are strong passwords. Although
That's why you get a password manager. It'll fill it in for you, and it'll do facial recognition, and
No, that's
you
a
won't
great
have to
idea.
remember passwords much longer.
No, that's coming down the pipe, right?
Yeah.
It's almost already here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the biggest thing you think? All right? So let's play a little game here. Let's play a sales game, right?
Okay.
So I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna ask you, invite you, whatever. Tell you, sell it to me. Let's say I'm dealer number AY. I'm the 444th largest used car lot in Houston, Texas, right?
Right.
And I've got problems with my data. Like, what's that look like for me? What are you telling me to do? What are the steps of the process? Like, run me through what InData does and tell me how that y'all can help me.
So we're here to help you meet the FTC safeguard regulations and get those implemented before June 8th. So June 8th is coming. The first thing we do is we do a 2-day rapid audit. We're going to scan a sample of computers. We're going to see what kind of data we can recover off of them. Just like if somebody phished you, can we pull any personal identifiable information? Can we pull passwords out of your web browser? Do you have software vulnerabilities on your computer? We're going to see if you have multi-factor authentication turned on. We're going to see if you have password manager, if you're doing employee education for phishing. We're going to go through a whole barrage of tests and come back with a report for the technology aspect of it. One thing that's really important is you as a dealer, you have to identify one person that's going to have their name on this report and attest that and this could be your chief marketing officer, your chief operating officer, that this, as information comes in from the person out in the lot to the finance team, where it's stored, how it's stored, is it encrypted, is it backed up, is it safe, do you have all these other control procedures in place with your IT team to make sure that this personal identifiable information doesn't get stolen. The FTC does throw out big fines. I know a lot of, maybe, dealerships think that they're not going to come for me, it's not going to happen, but, just some previous fines that have happened, like, EPN and Sage Automotive Group in California, they had a $3.6 million fine for...
That's a lot of money, man.
Right?
$3.6 million, that's a lot of car deals. That's a lot of wrenches turned.
Yeah, that's a lot. And they, so it's not like the FTC doesn't go out and investigate a complaint, so if somebody had just bought a car at your dealership and the next week there's a loan out in their name and they're pretty confident that they didn't apply for any credit cards, there's no other way their social security number got there, so they can report the dealership. Great, now there's people knocking on your door, they want to do audits, the FTC is bugging you, or local state, the state can come in and do that too.
So I have a question. I want to jump in. So we've got all these processes in place. What if you have a rogue employee, right? Like, so you got a rogue employee that that just sells that information to a local criminal or whatever, and those the same things happen. Somebody starts opening credit cards, whatever, right? Because, there's a lot of vulnerability there, right? Sure. You've got a lot of personal information. You got a full credit application. You've got all this availability. What's to stop people from doing that personally, right? And then even if it's not, and I guess my point to this is that I guess that the having your regulations in place is important, because even if it's not a cyber crime, you just have a rogue bad employee that you hired that's really a criminal, you've triggered something further down the line that's going to cause you hell later, right?
So, doing background checks on employees, critical, right? I know there's some best practices in hiring in the car dealership industry, and people you can't hire, based off of their background.
Sure.
But, most systems, dealership systems, finance systems have gates, right? That the social security numbers and the financial information of the customer, other than maybe their down payment, some of that stuff, that's all held in back by finance.
Sure,
The salespeople aren't getting there, so you're reducing your attack surface of an internal employee incident.
Yeah.
Because it's really the people in the finance department. Now, once you get in the finance department, and they can see the information that might not be redacted or You're only getting 3 digits of the social security
Well,
number instead of all of it.
I mean, I'll be honest. Most of that stuff's pretty public to most open front end staff members. So, I mean, as a salesperson, part of the thing I like about the way our dealership does it as a process, and part of the reason why we do it this way, is because we don't want rogue employees. We don't want culpability. I mean, we want our hands off the deal, and so I send credit apps to the customer. So in the old days, you'd write it down. What's your name, sir? Okay. Your social security number. Great. How long did you work there? Right. Okay. Yep. And then it became, okay, we got computers at our desk. We'll do it right here inside the CRM. We'll do it right here in the dealer track, whatever, if you got access to that. And then as a process that we put in place, it's like, hey, look, I don't want this information. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to know it. I don't care about it. It's not important to me per se as the person facilitating this deal. Now for a finance director, for the person working those loans, it's a different concept, right? But I don't need your social as a salesperson. Right. I don't need my salespeople knowing your social. It doesn't really matter. And so we just forward those credit apps direct to the phone through basically it's not a two-factor authentication, but essentially I've got to text you. And I'll say, hey,
and it doesn't go back to you. It goes right to finance.
Well, it stays inside the CRM, right? So I'll text you, and you've got to give me an opt-in approval to text me, and then I'll text you the credit app. So no matter what it is, it's like I'm hands off. Like system, you said, yep. I said, okay. Here's the information, and it goes straight to my back channel for only the folks that need to see the info have it. Now, obviously, I have that info, but obviously, I'm not going to steal anybody's social security number. Right.
And what the FTC wants to know is where's that stored? Is it encrypted? Do you have all these other control procedures in place to make sure people can't get at it and steal it? You know, a bad actor, not necessarily an internal rogue employee, but a bad actor breaking into your network and stealing it.
Right. Yeah. Man, that's tough. That's a lot of stuff, man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's wild.
So we do the rapid 2-day audit for the FTC safeguards, work with if they have internal IT people to build a roadmap to implement all of these control procedures. If there are things they can't do, we'll do it for them. If there are things they can do, we'll make sure they get implemented properly, and we'll follow through in the process with them. And then, but still, somebody has to be in charge. Again, chief marketing officer, COO, somebody's name needs to be on that annual report attesting that they've met all these FTC safeguards, their IT department and their consultants have reviewed it. But they have a process for bringing in this information and securing it. So,
what are the likelihood of people being brought up on, the guy that's signing off on that? I mean, how much? Look, this is the car business, okay? So, I'm just getting everybody's got a job to do, and it's usually on fire, holding something on fire. You know what I mean? Obviously, when you get to executive levels, we're talking about forward planning and all these kind of ideas, but there's literally still everything you're touching is hot. You know what I mean? Just because it's a very fluid, very fast moving business, right? So what are the odds that this compliance officer, say you're XYZ dealership, and you go, yeah, just make Tom the compliance officer. He's the most responsible guy in the house. And Tom doesn't care. Like how hands-on does Tom really need to be? And what training does he need? What does it really take to be that officer and to manage those things not even effectively, but to really manage it?
To have that process, if they don't have experience with this, there are outside companies that can do that type of management consulting for those people that don't have the skill set to do that. We do the technology implementation portion of it, but you do need to have a senior executive put their name on and attest to it. And not only will the dealership get fined if they're not doing it, but the person that attests to it, they can also be held liable.
Personally liable.
The FTC wants somebody in charge of it because it can't be oh, well, it was a team deal and Frank worked on this and Sally worked on that, so we don't know who's in charge, right? That's like not having a clear org chart at work. You don't know who's in charge.
That's a hell of a way to do it, right? As a team effort, we were all collectively screwing this up.
I don't know why my taxes didn't get paid. I have an accountant. Talk to him. That's his job.
Well, I'll give a shout out to my boy Shannon Robertson. So if you don't know Shannon Robertson, look him up, or you can hit me up on one of the past episodes on the show. Shannon's literally a compliance expert and a compliance trainer and one of the best. So shout out to Shannon, man. I mean, there's some really good companies that work together to get this stuff done in F&I. I don't know, man. That's wild. That's wild. What's the process? Obviously, after the 2-day rapid, survey that we go through? Like, what's the process to? Well, let me ask a better question. I'm trying to figure this out as I go. What are the real weaknesses that you're seeing inside these dealerships? Is it hardware? Is it software? Like, I mean, I think people put their head in the sand because they're going, bro, I don't want to get into this because this is an $80,000 project, and
we're trying to sell cars, and we got payroll, and
I'm not into it,
and I don't need another job responsibility.
Correct.
And I already got stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's across the board, but if I had to pick, two things, it is software configuration related.
Okay.
They have too much access for people, or the software's not secured.
Yeah.
It's kind of a combination. It's software.
Define that better though, so people that
so you
don't
have the
understand.
gates, right? So should a salesperson be able to see a social security number? Should a finance person be able to see the social security number? Or should only the customer be able to type it into a text tool and it goes directly into a system where it's redacted and nobody ever saw it? So that's the way a lot of credit cards are captured now.
Yeah,
remember
100%,
back in the day,
right.
you'd have like a piece of paper and you'd say, here, put your credit card number on this piece of paper.
Right.
And they'd write it down and you'd give it to the finance manager and he'd run the credit card and then there'd be this piece of paper laying around. So now, with the different Square and systems like that for credit, you type in the credit card number once and it disappears and nobody ever sees it again, and it's held by PCI compliance, cloud vendor, and you don't have to worry about it. You're not on the hook for it anymore because you never wrote it down.
Yeah.
You're passing the buck to the service provider. They're in charge of storing it securely.
Obviously, these costs vary by, size and scope,
Yeah.
right? What if I was a 20 employee? Can you just give me some ideas for people that are listening? Like,
Sure.
I mean, like what's this running?
So for the security audit, for the initial scan, we do it for free. It's complimentary. It's very easy to do. We send them a link. For Windows computers, they click on it. We need a sample. We need someone in the finance department, someone in sales, maybe one of the machines out on the floor that they're using as a kiosk. We need these clicked on. We gather the information. We come back and present it to them free of charge.
That's
so,
great.
but once we get past that and we can identify where the weaknesses are, and we do some interviews, who's in charge of this? Do you have an IT person on staff? Is a contracted person? Is a full-time employee? Who's your chief marketing officer? Who deals with third-party vendors and sharing of information? And we gather that stuff up. We can come up with a remediation plan, and they can range from, $5,000 to, $50,000.
Sure.
It depends on the size of the dealership and how much work there is, how many locations.
Right.
So it depends.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And then there's ongoing services of they need to stay compliant. So we either need to make sure that their IT team can keep them compliant, or they have us do the cybersecurity.
Or you can do it
compliance stuff.
alongside.
Yeah, and they still have their IT people that are fixing computers, fixing printers, doing like the on the ground
web stuff, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, doing the concierge stuff
that
you need at the dealership. So you got to keep the stuff running.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we were talking earlier about the data being sold, and we were saying that it mentions that it goes out and branches out. Like, how much of this stuff? I'm trying to like figure out my question here, but it's just so baffling. Really, it's kind of the thing. Like you start thinking about it, and it's almost just like I don't run into a lot of problems in my mind that I can't like figure out a step to like go. Oh, I see where this ends. But it seems like this is almost endless. Like once your stuff's out there, and once it's gone, once your dealership's exposed, once you're exposed, it seems like it's almost inevitable because there's no way to really get your social security number back off this stuff, is there? Once it's out there, it's out there.
There's no way to do a reputation repair on the dark web. Once your social security number's out there, you can lock your personal credit with TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, which I recommend everybody does. It's free to do. Just go do it. You're really reducing your personal attack surface.
Agreed.
If you lock that down.
Right.
If you need to buy a car, you can lift it.
It takes like 5 seconds to lift it.
It's
like,
not a big
deal. We deal with it all
Yeah.
the time. Yeah, it's not a problem.
A service I personally use, and maybe they'd be a great sponsor for you, is LifeLock.
Oh,
right?
sure.
So LifeLock, you can put in, all your credit cards, bank accounts, social security numbers, and, with one click, you can lock Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. With one click, you can unlock them.
Yeah,
and
no, it's
right
a great
on your mobile
service.
phone. Yeah.
They've been around for a long time. That's an interesting company because they were really popping for a while. and then they just sort of kind of like died off, which just doesn't seem like they'd get even bigger, but maybe they're just quieter. I don't know.
They got so big, Norton bought
Yeah,
them,
right.
So they got
Right.
they got acquired by a bigger company,
Yeah.
and but it's a good service, and
Yeah.
it also comes with an personal insurance policy.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, if you do have a financial crime that you know or identity theft, they'll help you work your way out of it.
Yeah, there's an insurance policy, but again, they're going to go back and check. Are you basically compliant? I mean, right?
No,
because there's personal security checks. I mean,
Yeah, no, that is definitely more on the business insurance
Yeah.
side.
Do you get a lot of pushback from people being like, yeah, I get that I'm out of line. I just not ready yet, or it's not in my budget, or
People always think it's not going to happen to them.
yeah,
You know, always. So all I can state is, you know, some of the FTC fines
Yeah.
that they do come, and all it takes is one complaint, and the fines can be really big.
Yeah.
You know, and they're state fines. It's not
Yeah.
just federal, but it's state.
Yeah.
So each state has a personal identifiable information. If there's a breach, you have to report it within a certain amount of time, and make sure that the person that had the breach is taken care of. And it's different state to state. If anybody listening wants to know what the state laws are for data privacy, I'd be happy to send them to them.
Yeah.
I got them for all the states.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. How do people contact you?
So they can text me at 310-463-9701.
Okay.
And if they're interested in a FTC safeguard audit,
Yep.
it's a complimentary audit. Just text me their business email and phone, and I'll get in touch with them, and we'll do the scan for them.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. So before we go, tell everybody your positioning in the company, and you know about your team, I guess, and why they should call you. Like, you know, what's the reason for using you guys versus somebody else?
Right. So in data consulting, we are a cybersecurity, compliance, and information technology consulting company.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, what we're really trying to do is protect the business, protect their payroll.
Yeah.
You know, so they don't get hacked and interrupts their business and takes them out of business, and do reputation management. Right. So to lose the trust of your customers because their information was stolen and then it turned into something that it didn't need to be, like a loan in their name, you know, and then they call the FTC. So really our role is to protect the business owners, manage risk, and make sure that the FTC doesn't come bug them, and the bad actors don't cause them problems.
Have you seen any real horror stories from people coming like you just mentioned something that kind of made me think, like you said, and they're losing their business? I mean, have you experienced these calls from people calling, and not necessarily dealerships, but, you know, Cindy's Cup Company in Bogota or whatever?
So probably the most notable one was we had a travel company, big travel company, that contacted us. Then they had a ransomware, and there were files getting locked. You could see machine by machine by machine were getting locked up. And
Like live in real time.
like live, you could see it happening, monitoring it, and we could see it machine by machine. So, you know, we disconnected them from the internet. We the only way to recover from that without having to pay a ransom in Bitcoin, right? So number one, do you even have a digital wallet handy? Most companies don't.
Right.
They're not prepared for that. Is to have backups of the data. And we had all their data backed up. We restored all their data. We got them back online. They were down for a couple days, you know, but it's not uncommon for businesses to be out for weeks, if not longer.
Can you imagine just being out for weeks, bro? Just like unavailable to do business?
Let me give you an example. California business, I won't say what vertical they're in, but they had a ransomware and it encrypted their accounting system. It was 30 years of accounting data, and it was gone. They couldn't get it back. So they didn't have any accounting data for if they had an IRS audit or to look at anything historical. So they started to recreate 30 years of payroll in a new accounting system. You know, I think they started with 5 years was the goal. We're going to go back 5 years of payroll. We're going to go back and enter 5 years of expenses and income.
Wow.
And from like paper, it's super time consuming, expensive, totally avoidable. It's a nightmare. So, you know, have a professional IT team back up your data, secure it from, you know, ransomware, monitor it.
I mean, it's like it's like a house fire, right? I mean, it's like somebody comes in there and just sets your whole business on fire, and everything you have is gone, essentially, right? Yeah. How much of the ransomware? How pertinent is this ransomware stuff? Because you hear about it on these big companies, but you don't really hear about it. I mean, you see the scammers like on
this one I just mentioned. It's random, right?
Yeah.
And the one I just mentioned, it was a small 20-person company. You know, they've been in business for 30 years.
Yeah.
20 employees.
How'd they get into them?
The server had a vulnerability. The network had a vulnerability. There were so many ways they could have gotten in there. It just wasn't maintained properly, but it is now.
Yeah.
So,
It is now.
It is now. Now you got their attention. Yeah.
So what's the recidivism on criminals coming back to these folks?
Oh, they always do.
Yeah.
So as soon as they get money, they're like payday. They just keep coming. So they don't go away after they get the money. They keep coming back and keep coming back. And they're anonymized. They're coming in through VPNs from other countries, coming into a server, and you know, they're coming from China. Then they go to a server in France, and then they VPN from France to the US. So you can't tell where they're coming from. But
they're there.
They don't go away.
Do they wait?
We can see the amount of attempts going on to log into the network or their email systems from, so we're monitoring.
I would imagine that there's probably a lot of different things that happen, but people just going back and back and back and back, right? Like when you know there's fish there, you go there to eat, right? If you're hungry. But the other thing is, I imagine that even if you don't get this thing figured out right away, I imagine that even once the wells run dry a little bit, if you don't make some big steps to change that, there's a time period where you just sit back and wait and let that population of fish respawn, and then you just come back and hit people again. I mean, it doesn't seem like it'd be that difficult.
Well, you also got to make sure that you really eradicated them from the network.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't eradicate whatever it was from the network, then they could be sitting there watching the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
And so y'all find all that. So you can find those folks in there.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they install software that monitors remotely, lets them log in remotely, sends data out, payloads of data out, communicates back with them. So it's scary.
This is like a horror movie.
It's it's real. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's real,
wow.
And so it's not just the car dealerships, right? I mean, it's going on with our power grids. It's going on with our
That's one of the
governments.
scariest thing, man, is the power grids.
The governments, the power grid.
Yeah, man, I'll be super honest. This sounds like an absolute nightmare. Like, this sounds like the worst horror movie that a business owner could have.
So it can be, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Right? So, by just taking the proper precautions and putting safeguards in place for both cybersecurity and how you collect people's information and store it.
Yep.
A lot of these problems are avoidable. But you can never 100% guarantee that somebody's not going to get hacked.
Sure.
You can put locks on the doors. You can put procedures in place. It's a constantly evolving business for the hackers to try and steal information from businesses or even try and extort or, do a ransomware with them. So
I have a question because you bring up something that I want to talk about this earlier, but how do you safeguard, how do you safeguard against the new technologies? Because that's one of the things I think that's so mind boggling to people like me that are lays or whatever in this space. I'm a car guy, right? I'm not a cybersecurity guy, right? So how does a cybersecurity guy stay ahead of the curve of what's coming? And do you get to go to
the Black Hat conferences, the hacker conference. So we've had staff go to those conferences to because you got to keep your enemies close.
Yeah.
Right. You gotta, if you want to know what they're doing and how they do it, you gotta work your way into there.
Mario Puzo was onto something, right? You got to keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Yeah. So, what was the question?
Yeah, it's a great question.
You're gonna have to add
we'll cut it. Don't worry about it. Yeah. So, how do you stay ahead of the curve of the new shit that's coming?
So, there are research companies, security companies that are constantly looking for vulnerabilities in software, whether it's Microsoft, Adobe, all these vendors, and they release to a common database the vulnerabilities, the CVE database, and those CVEs, we scan the computers at the dealerships constantly for the vulnerabilities that are in the database and say, yep, we got a match here. Steve's computer is missing these software patches, and we automatically apply them. So that's one way.
Okay.
So there are databases that you scan against. That you scan against the assets at the dealership, find the vulnerabilities, and repair them before anything can happen.
Okay.
So that's one of the ways. And then a lot of reading, a lot of research, a lot of, just trying to keep up with the trends and how companies are getting broken into. But there are tools that help us identify the vulnerabilities, and we're constantly monitoring and scanning for them.
Well, that's cool. One of the things that I do to stay on ahead of this stuff is I just watch scammers on YouTube. Do you ever watch the scammers scamming scammers?
No, but you can learn anything you want on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, no, YouTube's the best. Yeah. So there's a whole, I know this isn't what you're doing, but it's a fun anyway. So there's a whole like category of guys that are like, the good guy hackers.
For sport.
Yeah. So they're hacking the hackers for sport. So they I guess they put their information out there on the web of some sort, probably
where
some
their
fake
office is at,
all this stuff, and they make a website that's vulnerable. They get found,
calling them back,
and then they hack into their computers and they take their money back. Yeah, and it's wild, man. I should pull up a video. Dude, it's crazy. You'll hear these Indian guys or Nigerian guys or Jamaican guys or foreign folks or whatever going, give me back my money. What did you doing? And it's like, I'm taking what you took back. And then the cool thing about what they're doing is, you know what I think they're probably doing? I think they're probably acting from a standpoint of somebody who got hacked and then going in on that file since they're already in there. I bet that's what they're doing. I was wondering how they get these guys to attack them.
I've watched it. The way they do it is that, when someone calls you and says, hey, it's Tom from Apple. We know that you have a security problem with your computer. We need to fix it for you.
Yeah.
So we're going to send you a link. Will you click on it? Okay. And so they send you a link, right, that they want you to click on. And somehow, some way, they get them to click on a link. And that's how they flip the script on them. And that's how they get into their system.
I can't get that. Use this Zoom link instead so I can do that.
That's how they do it. Yeah.
That's the greatest thing ever, dude. Yeah. It's like, there's something so heroic about that.
Fake calls. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Right.
Impersonation, it happens a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awful, man.
Even officers in the companies.
Yeah.
We just had someone was getting fake text messages saying it was from the CEO. I need you to do something or send something. We've had.
Is it a mirrored phone number?
Emails.
I mean, is it the same numbers or what?
We've had them come in through WhatsApp. Hey, we know you're at the conference, but can you send some money over to Sally, or email, or voicemail, or impersonations come in all forms.
I wonder what, you just gave me an idea. See, here's the problem with me, with my brain, is that it's like, I bet I could figure out this thing. It's a good thing I'm a good guy, I'm going to tell you.
Right.
Because like you were saying, so the deep fake technology and stuff like that's coming. So let me ask you this. If this deep fake stuff's coming, right? I mean, deep fakes are coming. If you have any sort of amount of time on the internet speaking, so if say you're a TEDx speaker and you've done multiple of these, and now all of a sudden all your voice and all your inflections and all the inflections and the way that you talk are out there, I mean, that's loadable into AI to move those around. Yeah. I could call you from a voicemail and have the computer say, hey, Mike, it's Steve, man. Do me a favor, bro. My phone's dying, man. I'm stuck here. Send me $100, please, dude. I got a tow truck coming. I wouldn't call you if I didn't need you. You're the only number I could find. Click and hang up on you. And then all of a sudden, I mean, you could literally, that's a stupid little scam, but it's the first thing I came up with here.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
That's the grandma scam. Hey, grandma, I'm in jail. I'm in Mexico. I need you to send money.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of people fall for that.
The damn grandma scam.
Yeah.
God, you bastards.
The AI.
You bastards.
The deep fake stuff, it's real. We got an election coming up.
Yeah.
Everybody's concerned about it. Oof. In China, they just passed a law that if a piece of content is written with artificial intelligence, it has to be tagged as such. And if it's not, it's punishable, but with jail time.
Well,
right?
China,
And even in Italy last week, they outlawed ChatGPT. So they're trying
They
to take us
outlawed
they said it's not
ChatGPT
allowed.
in
I mean, look,
all of Italy.
so like China, controls their internet, right? So when
I did not know that. What do you mean China controls Italy's internet?
No. China controls China's internet. So
like,
when I went to China for a trip, several years ago, I was just, I was really surprised at how much stuff was blocked.
Yeah.
I couldn't get to Facebook. I couldn't get to Yahoo. I couldn't get to this, or that. And so that was eye-opening. But yeah, so could Italy, could they block ChatGPT? Yeah, it's a website.
Yeah, no, for sure they could. Yeah. Man, it's so wild what's
But
coming.
they outlawed it last week. So yeah, there's no regulation for AI.
Right.
That's the problem. Right. There's, not that I'm a fan of government regulation, but this is a significant change in how humans are going to evolve.
Dude, it's wild, man. If you listen to the stuff that like Elon talks about and like Neuralink, I mean, it's coming, man. The world, we were talking about on a break. For those of y'all that don't know that I edit this in, I did go to the bathroom. So if y'all are bathroom counting me, that's one. Go ahead and mark that on your board. It's rare, man. It's rare, but I've been here all day, man. And what was I just talking about?
We were talking about governments controlling the internet.
I just had a complete brain fart.
AI changing how humanity.
Yeah, I literally cannot think about what I was thinking about, but it doesn't matter. We'll just have to chop it.
You need a Big Mac. Right?
Yeah, it's time for a Big Mac.
hangry,
Yeah, that's it. I don't know, man. No, man, it's so wild. AI is definitely coming. It's definitely going to change the world. It's definitely going to solve these problems. Oh, I know what I'm saying. We were talking about earlier about this about the future of like what automotive could look like.
Yes.
And if we don't start, and we talk about this on calls with guys that are in the business and guys that care about the car business. If you're not focused right now on becoming something important to your community, I'll be the first to say it. Like, you're going to be out of business because the future looks bleak for car dealerships. The stuff that Ford's saying, kiosk ordering, all these things, and then the move to EVs creates not only a direct connect sale, right? Because it's modular. You pick these things. I'll take this option, this deal, that deal. But it also takes all the money out of service because there's nothing to service.
I mean, a combustion engine vehicle has like 30,000 parts. An electric vehicle has like 5,000 parts.
Right. Yeah. And so those things don't break. I mean, they're wound. It's, you know what I mean? Like it's just so they're a little heavier. And I've talked to some guys about like what the experience will be and what the build outs are looking like right now for stores. Cause Ford and all these companies that are bringing these EVs to the platform are saying, hey man, you need to go spend $1 million and you need to update your transformers. Like, it's not just chargers, right? Like, where are you going to get the power? So now you got to get cities to update your power. You got to run new power lines. You got to run bigger legs, all this stuff of energy to get that energy to the dealership to charge and manage those cars that you're going to sell. Because now you got to have charging ports. You got to have more power. Then you got to have special places to put these batteries and then cranes that'll pick these heavy batteries up. And then you got to have a special part. Like, so it's like, it's a whole thing that's coming and changing. And as these things start driving, it's going to drive down the need for people in the store. So if you're not branding yourself with humanity, protecting people's, identities, doing the kind of things that you have to do to have customer trust and customer value, and you're going to be out of business.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the reality of it,
Yeah. Things are changing.
They are. I want to wrap this up, but I want to know, first of all, really thank you for being here and sharing this information.
Thanks for having me.
100% eye-opening. If you're a dealer, I'll look at the camera. If you're a dealer and you're not in compliance, man, I'd get on track, because the last thing you want to be is a small buy here, pay here. The last thing you want to be is an independent dealer trying to sell 70, 80 cars a month and have your business ripped out from underneath you. I'm going to tell you from talking to Mark and from talking to Mike and talking to doing these things, like, bro, you got to be in compliance, or else there's the real potential of you losing everything you've worked for. So if you want to find where to protect your investment, which is your business, your payroll, your family, your company, tell them where they can do that at.
So you can go to indataconsulting.com. That's INDATA consulting.com. And we have an FTC link right on our website. You can contact us there, or you can text me if you want a 2-day rapid FTC audit. You can text me at 310-463-9701. and that's the way to reach us.
That's the way to do it. Yeah, there'll be a link in the bio. You guys can connect with me if you want to know more. I just went through the 2-day, and it's going to be shocking to see the results, I'm sure. So I guess you have those results with you, don't you?
I do. Yeah,
I'm a little scared. Should I be scared?
you have some problems. But they're easily, we can fix them easy.
I do love the fact that you got
fix.
solutions. Look, I got problems, you got solutions, right?
It's a quick fix, yeah.
All right, man. Find the solutions at the link in the bio and all the numbers that he gave you. Thanks for coming in, brother. Real pleasure, man.
Thank you for having me.